What's up, guys? Hybrid Mongoose here, and today is another video. We are going to talk about how I'm a 40-year-old gamer. Let's get right into it. So that's right, I am 40 years old, and time is flying by so fast that I actually realized in order to make this video, I have to do it before January when my birthday comes up. And funny how things go as you get older. They say everything goes faster, which is 100% true. You know, especially even having a kid, who my son is now 7 years old. You know, that time just starts flying by at a rapid pace. So I started gaming at an extremely young age, and I know most of you guys have as well. And me predominantly covering retro gaming, there's got to be more of you guys out there that are 40 years old or older or approaching 40 years old. Just know that, you know, it's coming for us all, you know. if you're young and you're laughing at this right now,
it's coming for you. Just remember.
So I started playing video games when I was 5 years old. My parents had an NES, and I remember playing one of the first games I ever played was Turtles, the first Ninja Turtles game. And you know, it's funny because that game was ridiculously hard. We would just take turns, you know, passing the controller around after we would die. And even playing that game like now, that game is extremely hard for what it is. It's kind of funny how hard that game is. But you know, that, and then obviously the original Mario, that was the first time that, like, you know, I got my socks blown off by video games. You know, my dad had an Atari, but it wasn't, you know, it didn't really hit me. But you know, seeing the seeing you know, the Nintendo, that's what really got me into gaming.
Something's coming up the plumbing, poor Luigi's in a bind. Giant turtles out to get him, creepy crabs are right behind. Fighter flies, jeepers yikes, they're all coming out the pipes. Mario, where are you?
So, like any other hobby when you're little, you would think, you know, maybe you would outgrow this. Maybe you would, you know, stop playing, or maybe you did play video games when you were little and you stopped playing them. And, you know, it's funny. I never stopped playing video games. I mean, throughout my entire teenage years, all the way up until high school, past high school, I remember even my longtime girlfriend, we actually got into a fight. We got into a fight playing, you know, because she was like, you know, when are you going to grow up and stop playing video games? And it's like, obviously that relationship did not work out, because who wants to marry or be with some person who's like that?
I'm breaking up with you.
Cool. Love it. Totally fine with that.
Really?
Yeah.
But you know, I got into like major fights with my longtime girlfriend over video gaming, and you know, maybe there I was, you know, maybe I was playing too much, but to me, video gaming was like an escape. You know, I didn't grow up very, you know, my parents didn't grow up very well off. You know, we were, you know, pretty poor when we were younger. So video games were a way to like escape where I was. And I had a lot of friends growing up in elementary school, but we moved when I was in middle school, starting middle school, to a whole new area. So I knew nobody. And I actually was pretty depressed even as a child, because I had all of these friends. I was pretty popular in that school, and then come to this new school. Well, I don't know anybody. I don't know, you know. And I remember that first summer of 6th grade, I was pretty lonely, you know, but we had a PlayStation, and I was playing, you know, Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy VII, and that was my way to escape, you know, that loneliness, that depression. And eventually, yes, I mean, don't be sad for me, I found friends, you know, that led me to finding one of my best friends ever, Brandon, known as Cat Zorro. If you see him in any video games that I've played with him, you know, that led to me finding my best friend ever. So, you know, it's funny when you look back in life, you think, oh, I have all these friends, but in reality, looking back on it, you know, being 40 years old, you only need a couple really good friends and you know, family, and that's about it. That's about all that's about all I require. You know, it's funny when you're growing up, you have all these acquaintances and these groups of friends that you have, and then over time, you know, especially when people start having kids, it's like you start to stay out of contact with each other. You start you know, contacting each other, and I'm lucky enough to have my best friend Brandon, where we can. Life gets in the way. And he has 2 kids and a wife, and I have 1 kid and a wife, and work, and he has work and all this other stuff. But it doesn't matter how much time has passed. If we haven't talked to each other in 6 months, if we start hanging out, it's like no time stopped. Like no time was in between that. We can pick up where we left off just like instantaneously and get along like we were best friends all along.
Let's play a game, all right? On the count of 3, name your favorite dinosaur. Don't even think about it. Just name it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Velociraptor.
Favorite non-pornographic magazine to masturbate to.
Good housekeeping.
If you were a chick, who's the one guy you would sleep with?
John Stamos.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Which is, it's amazing. You can't do that with a lot of people. And you know, it's I'm very happy to have such a good friend like that, and he still plays video games with me to this day. He's mostly on the PC gaming and all of that stuff. So it's funny, I've been playing video games since I was 5, like I said, and now I am 40, right? So I have 35 years of experience playing video games. So I've played pretty much almost every genre of video game you could think of. You know, in playing games as long as I have, you would think I would be like, you know, I'd kind of know what I like by now. But it's funny because a game surprised me about 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, was Hades. I never played roguelike games. I never was into them. Speaking of, I should actually start playing Souls-like games too, because I've never played the Souls-like games, and I always had this. I like really hard games, so it's like I think I would really like it. So you know, if you want me to play Elden Ring or even live stream that, I'm planning on trying to integrate live streaming into the channel a little bit more too. Like trying to live stream at least once every 2 weeks or so on a weekend, just to integrate that into the channel. I think that would be fun to interact with you guys, as well as, you know, play some games that I've never played before, like Elden Ring, you know. But like back to the roguelike game, that Hades blew my socks off. You know, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how good that game was. And I went from like not even knowing what a roguelike game was to playing that game, realizing that you needed to get you need to beat the game 10 times to get the actual real ending. And then I not only beat it 10 times, I actually got up almost to the highest heat level. If you've ever played the game, you know what I'm talking about. You increase the heat to make it even harder. And I think I've beaten that game over 100 times at this point. And I absolutely love that game. And I know Hades 2 is out as well, but I've been waiting to actually get into that. But that just goes to show, you know, like I've been playing video games for a very long time. And this new genre of game that I've never played before, I played Hades and I loved it. Now, I actually tried to play other roguelike games, like Dead Cells and a couple other ones, and I could not get into them. Hades had the story. I've come to find out that being, you know, in my age, story, I care about the story a lot, which is why I like RPGs so much, because it's such an adventure that you go on. And it's funny to say, another thing that people are going to be shocked by, and this is a hot take, I don't like Zelda. I know. I don't like Zelda. I actually, my brother got the original Zelda Golden cartridge when we were younger, for his birthday. We have a home video of it, literally, of him getting it. And we all played it and we didn't like it. We didn't get it. We're like, I don't understand this game, you know, like we're playing it and just going like, we're not having fun. We don't understand it, you know, and we just stopped playing it. So over the years of hearing about Zelda and everyone going like, hey man, we love Zelda. You know, it's such a mind blowing, it's the best game in the world. You know, I was like, okay, I'll try it again. I think I tried Ocarina of Time on N64. I played about 20 hours. The story wasn't hitting me, and I got bored, and I stopped playing. You know, I just needed the story to hook me. This is why I even brought it up. And then I tried Breath of the Wild, And Breath of the Wild was very good. I mean, obviously, it's up there, but then, you know, the open worldness was cool. I got pretty far into it. I got past the first like noob level area, got into the second area, had some new armor, and I just got bored of it. The story wasn't good enough to keep me going, and I realized, you know, being 40 years old, that I need that story to keep me going. I can't just go explore to explore. I can't just go into these dungeons and defeat them just because. I need something else as a motivating factor to like get me in there and make me want to play and make me want to go through that. And if you're really into story and you really like those types of games, you know, this is why I actually liked the Fable series, which is an action role-playing game, you know, kind of similar to Zelda-ish, but Fable had like a ton of story to it. So I actually like Fable more than I like Zelda. And it's fun. So I didn't buy Breath of the Wild 2 because I already knew, like, okay, I don't like Zelda games. I don't know why. And it's not, this is no hate against someone who does like Zelda. It just never got me. It never hooked me like these other games. If you're really into heavy story and like a pick your own adventure thing, one game that's really overlooked is the Mass Effect trilogy. The Legendary Edition, where they redid the first Mass Effect, updated the graphics and everything. It's like $8 on Steam, or if you go on like Xbox Live, the game is super cheap, and you have 3 games worth of just amazingness to go through. I can't recommend that enough. That game blew me away. In terms of, like, you know, you could, if you've played that game before, you know the Paragon system and the Renegade system, and you can kind of be like, Paragon is the good guy, Renegade is the bad guy. I would always pick Renegade, just because he did a lot of jerk a-hole stuff that would just make you laugh, like punching a reporter in the face and like things like that. So you would just do it just to see what would happen. But if I ever play the game again, and I know I will, I think last year I bought the Legendary Edition, and I went through the entire 3 games back to back. I couldn't stop. But if I ever go to replay it again, I'm going to go full Paragon and go full good guy this time instead, just to see how different the game is. And anybody that knows that game, your choices dictate the future, and your picks on certain things can literally, you know, tell you if someone's going to live or survive into the next, you know, chapter of the game, or even the next game in general. You could mess up on Mass Effect 2 and then import your save in 3, and then that character's gone because he died in 2. So like it's such a good, you know, pick your own adventure type of game. I highly recommend it. And it's funny because I didn't get Mass Effect 1 when it first came out. I got Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, and I beat those 2. And then Andromeda dropped, and I wasn't a fan of Andromeda. I did not like Mass Effect Andromeda at all. I thought that was I still remember they used a lot of weird facial animations and stuff like that. It just didn't look right, and then the story wasn't good. You went from Shepard, who was a complete badass, you know, and then you go to your character who's just like, you know, he just like saved the galaxy in this one area, and everyone's like, all of the NPCs are poking shit at him, and I'm like, who wrote this? This is terrible. You know, you want your character to be, you know, Shepard is a strong character, you know, like, why did they make that character such a I don't know. I just didn't like Andromeda. The graphics are great, and I love the system that they had designed in it. But again, going back with me, it's the story. If the story doesn't hit me, I don't continue. So my gaming expertise spans 35 years. So I'm somewhat of an expert, you know, in this field.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
You know, it's funny, I wouldn't consider myself that, because it's like everyone has their own opinion on video games, and everyone, you know, has their own own things that they like and dislike about video games. And I'm of the mind of, like, with especially with retro video games, as long as you're playing the games, I do not care how you play them. There are some retro purists out there that want you to play, you know, the exact way on the real console with the real cartridge, and you know, on a CRT TV in your grandma's basement that has wood paneling on it, and it's like, you know, it's like we got to play exactly how we did when we were 5, you know. But you know, if you emulate the game, you want to, you have emulators on a Steam Deck and you beat Chrono Trigger, great. Who cares? Like, I'm of the mind to just, like, you know, play how you want to play. And if you see my game room tour, I went extreme with the RGB and SCART and trying to get the best picture possible. And I don't look down upon anybody that wants to play it in a different way. You know, if they want to play with composite cables, that's fine. If they want to play with a mister, that's fine. You know, like, who cares? Like, each to their own and how they wanted to play. But I asked the question, you know, how can I get these retro video games to look the best that they possibly can, you know, and make it the best picture quality possible, plus, you know, modded CRT TV and all that other stuff. So it's like, I went extreme. You know, I went to the top level of as far as you can go. When, if you want to be honest, I have a RetroTink 5K or 5X. I don't technically need the CRT TV, but I do think the CRT TV does look the best overall with it being RGB modded and you using an RGB, you know, output. So, but yeah, there's a lot of gatekeeping that goes along with retro gaming, and I think it's actually pathetic. Like, who cares how these people are playing? As long as they're keeping retro gaming alive and they are playing and enjoying these games, who cares how they play them, is how I feel. There's a lot of people that are against EverDrives, and I'm a big fan of EverDrives because, you know, it lets you play a lot of the games. And yes, it is, I guess you would technically say you're acquiring them not correctly. But, you know, it would cost a fortune to buy all those physical games. And there's nothing wrong with that, to have the actual physical games. But if you're into, like, obscure consoles like me, like the PC Engine or the TurboGrafx, go look at the prices of those games and then tell me you're not going to buy an EverDrive. Because you'd have, like, you know, it's really hard to, you know, like, $500 is going to get you about 3 games. You know, it's like, that's pretty bad in terms of the pricing. So that's why I'm like, I'm all for EverDrives, because that way when I do buy a game, I still do buy physical games, retro games, and I do prefer to buy physical new games if they're on the Switch as well. But yeah, I just know when I buy the physical game, it's a really good game that I really wanted, because I was willing to pay full price for it and all that other stuff. That way, out of all of my retro consoles, my physical collection will basically be all bangers. It won't be filler games. I'm not into trying to get, like, the entire NES collection. I'm not trying to, you know, I have thought about trying to get full collections for certain consoles, like obscure ones. Like, wouldn't that be weird to have, like, the entire Wii U collection, or like, you know, the Sega 32X, like, all of those cartridges, just because, you know. But again, a lot of these obscure ones they're going to cost you an arm and a leg to get all that stuff. So it's like, it's going to take a while. So my plan when I was originally setting up and getting all of my consoles were, get the consoles first, set up the best picture quality you can, and then get an EverDrive for the time being. That way you can enjoy all the games that you want, and then circle back and then grab the physical games that you really want, and, you know, and curate and get the best, you know, that way the only games that you're buying physically are the ones that you really, really want. And that way you're not, like, you don't just have, like, a room full of cartridges and games for no reason. At least that's where I'm coming from. And that does look cool. Trust me, when I see somebody's game room and their wall is, like, literally filled with retro video games, it's like, that's amazing looking. But I don't have that much space to I have one room, but I don't have that much space to, like, just fill the walls with games. It'll probably eventually happen over time, considering all the consoles that I have. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I'll get a bookshelf, and one shelf will be for Nintendo, and one will be for the Super Nintendo. But you know, collecting is actually pretty easy, especially when you do it the way that I do it, and you actually, like, I resell to fund my own hobby. So a lot of the money goes right back into the video game. So it's like, you'd be surprised how fast you can obtain things when you do it that way. But anyway, guys, this is a long, ranty, pretty much 20-minute video. I hope you enjoy it. Just my thoughts on, you know, being a 40-year-old gamer. You know, I'm never going to stop playing video games. I will be playing video games until I'm an elderly old man. You know, I have no, it is my one fun hobby and a way to escape, you know, the real world sometimes. And not that I need to, but you know, it's like, it's a fun hobby that, when done without hurting your life, because like, people can get addicted to video games and it can actually really negatively affect their life. I've seen people on the other side where they don't even want to play video games because they get too addicted to them. And I have a good balance. You know, I'm able to play video games. I'm able to, you know, be an adult, spend time with my family, and as well as, you know, go to work and things like that. The only time I think video gaming is an actual issue is when you are negatively affecting your life just for the video game. Meaning, like, you're playing World of Warcraft and you don't want to work, and you don't want to go to school, and you skip going to doing important things just for video games. And the last time that happened to me, I kind of woke up to that. Yeah, so yeah, there's a good balance there, and you know, you gotta have balance in your life. You can't just play video games like crazy, which is kind of like, you know, I gotta be careful about my son, because my son likes video games too, so I gotta teach him, you know, balance. But anyway, guys, that is gonna do it for the video. Leave some comments down below. What are your thoughts? Are you as old as me? Does your back hurt as well? Click like, subscribe, it's free, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.